Hello everybody, thank you for parting with the royal wedding this afternoon, and also for giving the FA Cup a miss to be here and join us. I don't know who picks these dates, Alex, but anyway, it's great to be here. My wife's particularly happy with you that you've made me miss the wedding with her. Yeah, just to speak to you about LionsGold. We are AIM listed, as Zach said. We have been suspended from trading a week ago. So this is sort of the big news for our company at the moment, which is when we organised the event and Railsbank coming along, it would have been a great way to say, how do we get some exposure to Railsbank? And we go, well, LionsGold owns 12.5% of it. You could come and buy our shares, but you can't do that at the moment. We've been developing LionsGold and what this business strategy is for the last 15 months since I've been CEO of the company. We started with some assets in India, and there were some that we thought wouldn't be commercial, so we let those go, but there were certainly partnerships and equity holding in India's leading gold exploration company over there that we held on to and that we've increased our stake in over that period. We also went for some jurisdictional diversification, so we entered into a joint venture with some high-grade, small-scale deposits up in Finland that we could bring into cash flow in the short to medium term. And then we also added a financial technology division, and this was, as Zach just touched on, it was a company that had an online gold trading exchange where individuals could come and get a gold or a silver account, and you could trade like you might do a stockbroking account. Over the last 15 months, we've developed this proposition, and probably one of the leading things that we're set to launch shortly, and will be launched this quarter, is called Goldbloc. And what that is a gold currency that uses the rails of global banking. And we're able to do that, and it's a very scalable proposition because of our good friends Nigel and Clive over at Railsbank and what they've developed over the last 18 months to allow a banking and compliance platform for B2B propositions, for businesses to then offer bank accounts to their clients, white labelled for what their products are. We're bringing the gold to the table, if you like, because that's what we're focused on. And LionsGold, has developed a vertically integrated business model where we're interested in the exploration and production of gold, as well as the retail application of physical gold. And to actually put your direct ownership of gold into a bank account, physical gold that actually exists, that's vaulted somewhere and that is your legal property with no counterparty risk, and put it with the convenience of everyday banking by putting it into a bank account, that's what Goldbloc is about. One last bit on Goldbloc, it's 1/1000th of a gram, so we call it Goldbloc. It's a unit of currency, but it represents a weight of gold. So 1,000 Goldbloc is 1 gram of gold. If you're a Goldbloc millionaire, you own a kilo of gold. Here's our disclaimer, so forget everything I just told you and don't invest on the back of any of this until I tell you this bit. First of all, this is the protection we have, of course, of you not being able to trade in our shares at the moment. But with the disclaimer, as a public company, this presentation is for your information and your interest. It doesn't constitute a recommendation. I'm not making an offer or an invitation for you to take up our securities. You need to do your own research, and it's not to say that this whole presentation gives you absolutely every bit of information that you might require in making an investment decision. So I've probably covered some of this, but our strategic focus, and we have a group of businesses or business divisions. We're in gold exploration, production, and that retail application of physical gold, and that's what gives us a vertically integrated business model once we're delivering on all fronts. We currently have over 21% of India's leading gold exploration company. We have 30% of a high-grade gold deposit in Finland. We've got 200 ton equipment testing permission to do 200 tons of gold ore over there at the moment. So we'll actually have our first gold in July. It will be 1 to 2 kilos of gold. It is actually for equipment testing, but nevertheless it does demonstrate that we've got high-grade gold there. And then we'll move forward with looking to get our permissions for 5,000 to 7,000 tonnes for a bulk sample, and then getting our mining licence. In the early stages, and we have reported on what the tonnages are, what the grams are, but we're looking we're expecting to average around 20 grams per tonne in those for the bulk sample. And that will provide for that company $2 to $3 million US worth of gold, which if you've got a gold exploration joint venture and it's self-funded, that's a good achievement, milestone to get to. We also have the gold vaulting and online exchange, which currently has 120 kilos or so of refined gold and 4.5 tonnes of silver under custody for approximately 400 active customers. And we are a cornerstone shareholder now in Railsbank and their banking compliance technology platform. And it is, all of these things are being set up concurrently with the release of Goldbloc, which is coming this quarter. And with that, the company is targeting 2 high growth markets: global banking and introducing gold as a currency to global banking, and India and gold mine development, the Bombay Stock Exchange and some opportunities that we see there over the next couple of years, and Goldbloc. So our current share price, when it was at the point it was suspended on Thursday the 10th of May at the close of the market, there was 2.65p, giving us a current market cap of 13.5 million. This is just a little bit about Goldbloc, holding some of your wealth in gold. Some of you may think, why would I do that? There is some status and prestige in holding and reflecting some of your wealth in gold. Historically, it has been a representation of wealth, but there is a lot of security in controlling a liquid asset that effectively is your family's reserve currency. If you have, if you own your house in the UK, if your job is in the UK, if you own stocks on UK stock markets, if your pension is delineated in pounds, then you have sovereign risk to that currency. It would make sense to have a little bit of your liquid assets held in direct ownership of physical gold. And if you can do that conveniently and easily, then this is the answer, and that is why we've developed this. It is gold you can spend, so it's again, it is like having a bank account with a different currency, as though it was US dollars. In this case, it would be Goldbloc. And the card will be a MasterCard debit card, as Nigel also touched on. So why gold? It's the original decentralized currency. As I say, gold does represent wealth. There is some status to using gold, but it is trusted. It's it's viewed as an asset to hold when there is uncertainty in the marketplace, when risk and volatility is high. We certainly see a lot of that at the moment with trade wars or potential trade wars with China and the US, potential actual war with North Korea and the US, and with all the quantitative easing that's gone on in the global financial system and bubbles that have thought to have been occurring in property and on stock markets. But also importantly is that it's not just a hedge against risk and against uncertainty, but one of the long-term drivers of gold is positive income growth. And there is an expanding global middle class, and that's mainly coming out of China and India. And again, one of the reasons why we're focused on India. Fiat currency, as most people know, loses its purchasing power over time. I think the US dollar has lost 99% of its purchasing power over the last 100 years. Gold has not. And for the last 50 years, prior to the last 50 years, our money was backed by an asset, was gold backed actually, at least in part. Certainly it was meant to be, provided they didn't overprint money. But anyway, in the last 50 years, all of our money that we use is debt backed. And then there's cryptocurrencies, and they're not trusted in the mainstream yet, but they are certainly evidence, I think, of the attention that they get of generally people and society, certainly individual-minded, financially minded people, looking at various ways of what are assets, what is money, what does this all really mean, and how can I protect my family and my wealth moving forward. Again, this is why we think it's a perfect time to bring a product like Goldbloc to market, and it's a mainstream product. It's not a cryptocurrency. This is physical gold, vaulted, owned by you, operated and utilised in a bank account, your bank account. That's just some other information on gold and how it holds up over time. The only other thing that's sitting up there with it is US stocks, which is also possibly at some point there may be a correction in that, if not a collapse, if that is a symptom of all the free money that's been going into being released by the Fed over the last, well, certainly over the last 10 years. So that was, I guess, the reason to talk about Goldbloc first was because we were sort of on the fintech part over there with Railsbank. I'm just going to touch on what we've got with the physical exploration and mining assets, firstly in India and then in Finland. I've spoken about why gold is important, and then I think that will give us a seamless lead into what Ariana want to talk about, which is producing gold. So there's all sort of method in this madness. So we have over 21% of GMI Saw services India. They've been going for over 20 years. They've explored about 27,000 square kilometres of area. Let me see, the company, before I created LionsGold, it was called Gold, and they already had about 20% of GMI Saw. They also had some interest in some other things in India that we basically discarded because we didn't think there was realistically any commercial outcome that could be obtained achieved for shareholders. But the benefit of LionsGold being involved with GMI Saw is that somebody has to spend in a market like that a couple of decades building that footprint and establishing their position and getting everything positioned ready to seize the opportunity that we believe is coming in India as a market generally and also specifically in mining. They have one mining license, 2 mining licenses in application. They have in all about 3 dozen prospecting licenses and mining leases, and the most developed project is at Jonagiri, which is just there in south central India. We've had a feasibility study completed on that. The decision to proceed to mine has occurred. We are completing negotiations with the landowners there, which has taken a considerable amount of effort on our partner's part. And we've got a probable reserve at the moment of the first 150,000 gold ounces, and there's a lot more potential in that particular mine. And then they also have a tremendous portfolio there, the biggest gold portfolio in India, exploration-wise. And then in Finland, we've got 30% joint venture interest. Again, we've entered into that joint venture in late 2016. Our partners had already been exploring Finland for 5 years, I think, at that point. So often when you come into these projects, that is to some degree what you're buying. Somebody has to put that time in, and if we're not prepared to, then we need to enter it at an opportune time. Our JV holds 8 exploration licenses covering 1,500 square kilometres. We've got at Koika, we've got a known deposit, a high-grade deposit, and that is where we'll be doing the bulk sampling campaign for 5,000 tonnes, expecting to generate more than 2,000 ounces of gold just out of that from a bulk sampling as a side product from a bulk sampling campaign, which again just demonstrates this high-grade gold there. The board and management, it's myself as CEO. I was the founder and inaugural CEO of Metal Tiger, which Darren mentioned earlier. We over the first couple of years of Metal Tiger, we put in a lead zinc silver project out of Thailand, as well as a couple of Thai exploration projects. We did the deal with Mod Resources, which Jacques will talk about in a little while, where we own 30% of 14 licenses, I think it is, in the Kalahari Copper Belt, which is giving us a lot of value, and Mod as well, doing a great job there. And we have a JV, or we also put in there a JV for a tungsten gold exploration program in Spain. When I left that company, so when I started that company, it had a market cap of £1 million after I just raised 400,000, and the share price was raised at half a penny. When I left, it was through 25 million and around 5p. I then was the co-founder and inaugural executive chairman of Cointilium Group, which was which the claim to fame there is it's the world's first IPO of a blockchain fintech company to list on a recognised stock exchange. So we did that on Christmas Eve 2015. And by December last year, that market cap was almost 3 times what it was at IPO. In July 2016, I became CEO of Gold with the 2 million market cap after raising 900,000, and created LionsGold, which has already been through 20 million market cap, and we've been at this for 15 months now. In April last year, I also became joint CEO and shareholder of a 30-year-old London stockbroking firm, which is First Equity Limited. So if anybody's interested in speaking to our brokers later about opening up a client account, looking at placings, this type of thing, feel free to speak to Tess and Sam down the back. Or indeed, you can come and speak to me and then I'll point out where they are. We've got David Price as our non-executive chairman. He's a former CEO of an ASX listed company and he's current CEO of Papua Mining, and he's a qualified geologist and brings that technical and operational knowledge to our board. And we've got Dr. Hama Prasad, who's CEO of the India-focused multi-metals group, Australian Indian Resources, and that established GMI Source Services. And it also was the company behind Deccan Gold Mines, which is the only exploration company listed on the Bombay Stock Exchange at the moment. And he's also a current director of that. Ray Faisal, I should give him a mention because between he and I, we actually created Goldbloc and what this gold currency is. He is the founder of the Real Asset Company, which was in 2010, and he has built that up as a small business, admittedly, but nevertheless built that up with those stats that I said earlier, over 100 kilos of gold under custody, 4.5 tonnes of silver. We've got vaulting arrangements in Geneva, London, Singapore and Hong Kong. He's an entrepreneur and he's done some other tech things, and one of the other ones went into an AIM company back in 2011. We've got our CFO, and the other person that adds a lot of value to our team is Alan Davies, who's the former chief executive of energy and minerals at Rio Tinto globally, and he was the head of everything Rio did in India for 8 years. So he's strategically very pivotal to have his input there. And we're very pleased to be able to track someone of his calibre to what LionsGold is trying to achieve. He's also the former non-executive director of Rolls-Royce Holdings, the FTSE 100 company, and he's currently got his own Zambian copper company that he's looking to bring to market later this year, which again First Equity will probably play a part in. So it's probably worth speaking to us if any of that interests you. In 2018, our objectives, the first three we've done, was invest in Railsbank and secure the exclusive use for gold on their banking and compliance platform. So I think when Nigel was talking about Great British Pounds, Euros and gold, we are the only ones who are allowed to use that for gold. We've increased our percentage ownership of our India project and Finland project, and we've moved to 100% position of what is now called Goldbloc Limited. And that is, as far as the regulator is concerned, that is what they deem to be a fundamental shift in a fundamental change in our business, which is why technically, on that technicality, we are now suspended. We'll be back on the market in September, and the business itself keeps going during that time. We keep, we release Goldbloc in the interim. So when we bring that back, it'll be a revenue generative company with the same physical mining and financial technology use of gold, but it will be revenue generative. It will be beyond proof of concept. So we expect that should come back at a different value to what we came off the market at. During this quarter, as we say, we're going to release Goldbloc and recommence trading in September, we expect. John Aguirre should have some progress on what we're doing there with securing funding to acquire land and complete the MDO to commence building the mine. We're progressing licensing for 2 more mining leases in India, and in Finland we'll be demonstrating the mineable gold and looking to obtain that bulk sample license. And then in 2019, I suppose, more to do with Goldbloc and banking and India, and that is to achieve 20,000 users of Goldbloc within the first 12 months of release, and to launch Goldbloc into the Indian market next year. So that's it for LionsGold. Sorry you can't buy all shares on Monday.
Can we still ask questions?
You can still ask questions.